Using the MIDI mates to program and control the damage control timelines. I've been asked to do these videos for a long time now and been procrastinating, just getting around to doing it. So that is a little bit of how the damage control timelines sound and how they sound running into each other. And they sound fairly decent, at least in my opinion, decent enough to justify, well, in my mind, having pedals this big and then hooking them up to MIDI pedals this big on your board. The damage control timelines have over 1,000 presets that they're capable of storing, but with just the timeline you can only access 8 of them. You hook it up to a Rocktron Midi mate and you can access 128 of them. You just hook them up via MIDI cable. 128 is more than I ever even use. So I have it hooked up to where this timeline is controlled by this MIDI mate, and this timeline is controlled by this MIDI mate. They're crossed, and I don't exactly even remember why I did that, but if I try and undo it, I can't I can't figure it out anymore. So and then your clean tone, in case you're interested, is just the normal prairie wood into the matchless. So first off is navigating the MIDI mate here. So you want to make sure, I'm going to use this MIDI mate and this timeline here, that you have it on bank. So this access button scrolls between bank, instant, and controller. You want it to be on bank. Alright, that's the easiest way that I've found to use it. Then secondly, you want to make sure that you know how this second button works. All of these buttons correspond to their numbers. You can see that going through. But the second button, you push that, and now all these buttons correspond to the second button, which is on some of these arrows. So if you push the second button and get to these 4 up here: titles, MIDI channels, controller assign, and program changes. Those are very important, especially MIDI channels. That's the first thing you have to look at in order to control the timelines via the Rocktron Midi mates, is that the timelines respond to MIDI signals on channel 1 only. So you have to make sure the Rocktron is sending its signal on channel 1. So you hit the second button, and then you hit 6 or 5 and scroll through till you get to MIDI channels. Alright? Now you use these over here to go through all 128 patches, right? Okay, go all through them. And then you use these buttons to change the channel per patch. So you want to make sure that if you're using the MIDI mate to control the timeline, that of course they're all on channel 1. MIDI channel 1 for all of these, if you're using it for that. So go through, and I've already done this, but they're all on MIDI channel 1. Okay, hit second to exit out of there. So now we've got all the MIDI channels on channel 1 so that we can write with the timeline. Okay? Now, that's very, very important. And then before also we can write with the timeline, we've got to be able to navigate this thing out of just this bank here. So you hit second, alright, and then you hit these, okay, and see I'm going up by banks of 10, okay? So I'm still inactive, I'm still on MIDI channel 112 like I was, but now I'm getting ready to get into bank 60. I hit 8, I'm on 68, okay? I'm in the 60s right now, 61, 60, I'm all over 60s, okay? Hit second again, down to, I don't know, the 90s, and then 92, 93, 94, okay? Only issue with that is that when you hit second and go up, these aren't 0 and 1 anymore, okay? These are now up and down. So in order to get to 1, you have to go to 2, and then down to 1, or down to 0. That's how to navigate. So let's go into the 80s here, 87. This is an open channel I haven't used. And let's go through how to write something on the timeline. We're going to use this timeline and this MIDI mate, okay? So let's hear what just the stock timeline has given us on channel 87. Oh, it's not too bad. It's not a bad vibe for a digital pedal. But I'm going to take everything down to 0. I'd like to get like a swell sound. So let's take this selector and put it on long. Okay. I want just a little bit of mix, a little less. Yeah, that's pretty good. They're on the mix. I'm going to crank the repeats a lot. Okay. Time, instead of tap tempo, let's leave it on a little bit longer than that. That's probably pretty decent. Okay. Now let's give it a little bit of modulation speed, good amount of depth. Yeah, nice. Okay. Some filter, good amount of smear. Turn the grid up. You can tell the grid is so cool because you can actually get your own like overdrive sounds going on. You don't want it that much though, so turn it down to here, and that's probably a good swell sound about there. So let's see how that goes. Decent swell sound. So if we want to call this up now, it's really very simple. Once the MIDI mate is set to MIDI channel 1, alright, you just hit this center button on the timeline. Now we've got 30 seconds to give it a MIDI signal on whatever channel we want. So 88. Alright, so now we go back to 87. We've got this sound, but as soon as we go to 88, we've got that swell sound. Alright, see the same settings that we had. Do a little volume knob. We've got that, alright. Now if we wanted to write it to a different bank, we'd merely hit this, hit the second, and go down to 63. Now we're on 63, so 64 is something else. Right, we go to 63, got those same settings, so